Welcome to MSUA's Game Changers Live, where we speak with satellite and mobile connectivity thought leaders about what's happening in the future and what we can expect down the line. I am your host, Lisa Dreher, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today, Bryan Hartin. He is the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Iridium. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. Great to be here.
Sure, maybe you can start by giving us a little bit of background on yourself
Sure.
and Iridium.
Great. Well, hello, MSUA Nation, and I'm Bryan Hartin. I'm the Executive VP of Sales and Marketing at Iridium. And really, what I'm responsible for is the commercial business for Iridium globally. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Iridium, we have been in business now for almost 25 years. We operate a little differently than others in the satellite industry. We are, first of all, truly global. We are a low Earth orbit network. We were LEO, as they say, before LEO was cool, but it's cool now, and we've been here, like I say, for almost 25 years. And there's a few key things to know about our network, our products, and our services. Is first of all, that LEO network, it operates globally, but it operates in the L band. And the L band, for those of you who are familiar with satellite, obviously, it is the most resilient band, which really, again, differentiates Iridium from some of the others in the industry. And what allows us to be so resilient above and beyond the L band is that our satellites are cross-linked, which means that, whereas some of the GEO players today, they may have some issues if one of their satellites has some problems, whereas Iridium, that isn't an issue, right? Because if one of our satellites may have an issue, there's another one that comes into view 7 or 8 minutes later. And that's what really gives our end users the confidence that if they're using an Iridium product or service, they can rely on it. So those are just a few of the things that, again, sets Iridium apart, describes a little bit of who we are. And I'll go into more detail in terms of some of the products and services that we offer as well.
Excellent. And gosh, I mean, Iridium has been doing a lot of announcements over the last several months. So, can you give us a little bit of an update on the company's offerings?
Sure. So we operate globally. We are purely wholesale, which I'll talk a little bit more about, which gives us a lot of ability to get reach and scale. We don't have to do everything ourselves because we have an ecosystem of 500 plus partners who really take us to market and represent us really well globally. So that's first and foremost. In addition to that global operation, we're really organized around 4 lines of business: IoT and personal communications, land mobile, which includes voice and PTT, maritime, which includes broadband and narrowband, and then aviation, which includes broadband and narrowband as well. And I'll just touch on some of the key offerings in each of those lines of business or categories. First of all, IoT, or Internet of Things. Really, there's 2 areas we operate there. First of all, personal communications. We are relied on by several of our partners, including Garmin, Zoleo, Somewhere Labs, and Bivy. And what we provide is a service that they then offer to the end users that they know if they need to send a message, track a person, or most importantly, if they're in distress, hit SOS, they can rely on Iridium for that product and service. On the other side of our IoT business is our what we would call industrial IoT. And this is where we basically go around the world, we look for problems, and then we use our partners to solve those problems and with solutions. And one of the areas that you may have seen a recent announcement in is our heavy equipment OEMs. And what that is these are the likes of Caterpillar, Komatsu, Hitachi, Doosan, Sumitomo, and the latest partner we added to the roster was XCMG, which may not be a household name to everybody, but XCMG is one of the largest OEMs in the world. They operate in China, but also many other markets throughout the world. So we're excited to have them as part of the lineup. And then really quickly, land mobile, which includes voice and PTT. These are traditional handsets, but also PTT, or push to talk. This is an area of our business that's really grown. It gives users the ability to communicate instantaneously without having to build a lot of infrastructure on the ground. They can procure either our handsets from Iridium or ICOM, which is our Japanese partner, who's really helped us expand in the land mobile radio user space. And that market's growing for us really well. And then in maritime, where mariners rely on Iridium for communications when they're outside terrestrial coverage, which, if you're on an ocean going vessel, there's not too many cell towers floating around out there. And they rely on our Certus maritime products and services. But really what they rely on Iridium for is GMDSS, Global Maritime Distress Safety System. And this is if there's a ship, a mariner who's in distress, they need help, they can push, it's literally a big red button, and they know that they're going to get rescued or have the authorities come and help them. So it's a huge service for us, but it also gives us street credit, as I call it, in the maritime industry that, they know that we're GMDSS certified, so they know that our products and services are extremely reliable. And then last is aviation. Aviation is another area where, markets in the aviation of all kinds, commercial transport, business aviation, rotorcraft, and even general aviation, they rely on Iridium for reliable communications. And we also are certified as aviation safety certified. So they know that if anything that communications with the cockpit in particular is required, Iridium is a standard, and we're approved to make sure that communication goes through. So that's a really quick spin of how we're organized globally, how we go to market in our offerings in our different lines of business.
Wow. So that is incredible. So much. So are there particular trends in the mobile satellite industry that are influencing the strategy for Iridium right now?
Yes, there are. There's one of the key initiatives we've worked on, and it's gotten a lot of press in the industry, is what they call direct to device. And everyone's familiar, or are probably familiar with Apple's announcement that they made last year, where they're offering basically SOS service on a smartphone. So if you get outside terrestrial coverage and you get in some kind of distress, you can hit the SOS button and get assistance or be rescued if needed. Now, Apple's taken the approach to use Globalstar's network, and there's, I won't go into, some of the challenges with that, but we also have partnered with an industry leader in Qualcomm, and Qualcomm is the preeminent supplier of chips to the Android smartphone market. And we signed 2 agreements with them last year, a development collaboration agreement that was the foundation for providing Iridium's enabling technology into their Snapdragon chip. That Snapdragon chip is deployed in millions of Android smartphones globally. And we also signed a service provider agreement with them so that they could take that SOS service and offer it to the Android market. And where I'll contrast and compare with what Apple's done very simply is that our solution represents our network, which is global, it is the L band, and is extremely resilient. So if you're an Android smartphone user, you get outside terrestrial coverage, and let's say you need some assistance or you want to send a message, that Android smartphone is capable of doing that. And, the Android OEMs they have the solution at the ready. They need to decide when they're going to deploy that. But, we're looking forward to having Iridium in millions of Android smartphones globally so that end users are never out of coverage.
Wow, that's really exciting. It's especially exciting because I have an Android device, so I'm ready to use it.
There you go. There you go. You should encourage your Android's OEM to start to utilize the technology.
Oh, indeed, I will. Okay, so maybe you can talk a little bit about the role that partnerships are playing in your business today.
Sure. So as I mentioned, Iridium has been going to market with a wholesale model. And what that means is that, there's a few foundational principles. One, we don't compete with our partners. So like I said, we have 500 partners in our ecosystem, and there are varying kinds. First of all, there's value-added manufacturers across all four of those lines of business I mentioned. And we provide the enabling technology to those partners that gives them the ability to design, develop, and manufacture products for the end users. For example, in personal communications, I mentioned the likes of Garmin InReach, Zoleo, Bivy, and Somewhere Labs. They take our enabling technology and then they use that to build their products, but then they also offer the service to the end users. In some instances, we'll develop our own products. For example, we've developed and designed and manufactured handsets, because that's an area of the business that's extremely important to us. And we're able to meet that market requirement with our own design and developed products. But we predominantly rely on our wholesale partners to build the products, create that solution that is unique to different markets, and then represent Iridium and that service to their end users. And I'm happy to say that, if you've ever been to an Iridium partner conference, we have a very engaged and passionate ecosystem of partners. And it's one of the things I think that, again, helps differentiate Iridium from the rest of the industry, is that's a foundational principle of how we operate in the world.
Oh, indeed. Earlier in our conversation, you talked about a lot of different markets that Iridium is supporting. Are there any, I guess, less common or really interesting, challenging use cases that you can talk to us about?
Yeah, I mean, one of the areas that it's another area that we pride ourselves on, and that is safety. Safety is an area that, again, because of our network, it's in our DNA that, a lot of our users, the reason they use Iridium is that they know they can rely on it in any environment, any part of the world. And it's really that safety part that I mentioned, the GMDSS, the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. We are recognized by the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, which is part of the UN. And we've been recognized now for 5 years. And mariners around the world are starting to add Iridium's GMDSS so that they know that if there's any time they need assistance, they can get it. And I'm just going to say that, as I mentioned, some of our geo competitors, if they have an issue with one satellite, those users are affected. In Iridium's case, because of our LEO network, our 80 satellites that we have in space today, there's always a satellite that can support our customers. And then the same goes for aviation. I mentioned the aviation safety services. So, our technology and service and products, I'll give you one example. If you're in a commercial airliner, let's say you're on a United flight and you're going over the top of the North Pole, there's really only one service that's going to work reliably, and that's Iridium, right? So I've taken that flight before, and I always, ask the pilot, do you have Iridium on board? Because if we're going over the top, I want to make sure you have it. And a majority of them do. And that's two areas that it doesn't get a lot of, fanfare. A lot of new entrants are coming into the market, and they may have a lot of promises out there, but when push comes to shove and end users really need reliable communication, Iridium's the one they turn to.
Hmm. Having been a boater my entire life, I definitely am appreciative of having connectivity wherever you happen to be boating. So I would value that a lot. When you think about the biggest changes or maybe new offerings that will be rolling out in the near future, can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. Sure. So there's a couple areas. One is in aviation. All right. So I mentioned our maritime business, our land mobile business. When we completed our tech refresh of our new network back in September or in January of 2019, there were new capabilities we brought to the market. And one of them is our Certus broadband service, right? This allowed us to compete with Inmarsat in terms of, L-band speeds and capabilities. And we've brought several products and services to market with the likes of, you know, Cobham, Thales, Intellian, Lars Trana. So those companies helped bring us to market in maritime and land mobile. However, now in aviation, we're bringing those same Certus broadband products to market with the likes of Collins, Honeywell, Skytrack, eventually Thales and others. So those are on their way. They're actually being delivered to market. And then we're going to also offer the safety services on those as well. So those are in the process of rolling out, and we're extremely excited about that. I would also say in the category that we've kind of created mid-band, which is kind of in between narrowband and broadband, we've introduced several new products there with our Certus 100 product, including the products from Ground Control, Blue Sky Networks, again, Lars Trana and others. But we also introduced the Iridium Go Exec. And what that is, think of it as a, almost like a hotspot that you can use with your mobile device. And it's got the speeds that the market needs so that if you're truly mobile and you're out of terrestrial coverage, you can rely on the Iridium Go Exec to fill that gap between narrowband and broadband. So those are just a couple of the offerings that are coming out, as well as what I mentioned before with direct-to-device and our relationship with Qualcomm, which right now is focused on smartphones, but it can also be used in several other markets and industries, including automotive and IoT. So a lot of things that are in development, a lot of things that are launching, and we're really excited about the future.
Wow, I'm excited too. I can't wait. So maybe we can end with a question about the future. So as you know, the MSUA has been around for over 30 years now. And when you think back 30 years ago and where our industry was then, it is quite dramatic, all of the shifts and changes that the industry has been through. So I want you to put on your prognosticator hat and tell me what you think the future 30 years out might look like in the mobile satellite industry.
Sure. Well, first, before I go forward, I'll take a quick step back and say, I mentioned that we've been in business for almost 25 years. So our 25th anniversary is coming up later this year, I believe in November. So we've been in business 25 years. We had an original network that, helped us get launched. We did a tech refresh, like I said, back in 2019. And, I'm very proud and happy to be, part of Iridium's history over the course of the last 25 years and hopefully played a small role in its success. And if I had to look out to the next 30 years, I would say that one of the things we're proud of at Iridium is we do what we say we're going to do. And we've been a very consistent performer in terms of our business results, but also having the ability to have end users confidently rely on Iridium for product and services. And I think 30 years out, if I had to, forecast, I would say that Iridium will still be a preeminent, network operator for satellite products and services globally. I think our innovation will keep us at the forefront of the latest technology shifts and trends, and we'll be still focused on making sure that we're delivering for our partners, our end users, and our shareholders.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here today, Bryan. It has been great to learn all about what is happening at Iridium.
Thanks, Lisa. I really appreciate it. And thanks again, MSUA Nation.
Absolutely. And I do want to take a moment to thank the MSUA for hosting these sessions. To learn more about the Mobile Satellite Users Association, you can visit msua.org. And you can learn all about our weekly newsletter that gives you the latest in what's happening in the mobile satellite industry, as well as learn how to become a member. So be sure to visit msua.org. And we'll see you next time on MSUA's Game Changers Live.